morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice of radio, and today I feel like Pokemon are listening to me. Because yesterday, I did a video about Obsidian Flames, basically saying, hey, there is still a huge amount we don't know, and we've not actually seen many of the cards from, well, Ruler of the Black Flame, which is going to make up the majority of our Obsidian Flame set. Cool? Cool. Well, the good news is, today, they've gone and revealed a new EX. They've gone and revealed Absol EX. And now, I'm going to be honest with you here, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the most awkward cards I've translated myself. And I've not checked with anyone. I've not checked the translation before recording this video. What I will do is make sure I check with, somebody before I upload it. But I actually feel pretty good about this, honestly, ladies and gentlemen. I feel pretty good about this translation. Although it's one of the more complicated ones I've done myself, and I haven't checked with anyone. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And if you want a card which is going to annoy some people, Absol EX says hello. What we've got here is 210 HP, which is about standard for a basic EX, weakness of grass, retreat cost of 1, all fairly standard. We've then got an attack for a single darkness energy that lets you look at the top 3 cards of yours or your opponent's deck and put them back in any way you like. You basically get to rearrange the top 3 cards of either player's deck. And I had a look, and now maybe there's a more recent one which I've forgotten. I thought there was, but I couldn't find it. The most recent card I could find that did this was the Baltoy from Ancient Origins, which literally has this exact attack for a single psychic energy. It also had the ancient trait Fate as Stop, prevent all effects of your opponent's ability done to this Pokemon, yay! But mostly it had Future Spin, look at the top 3 cards of either player's deck, and put them back on top of that player's deck in any order. Now, this is one of those things, and look, I'm just going to say it right here at the beginning of the video. Iono. This is a card that loves Iono. And look, we know that everyone loves Iono at this stage. It's one of the best cards in the game. Seeing a huge amount of play, etc. But this especially is a card that loves Iono. Because essentially what you do here is you go down to, your opponent goes down to like 1 prize remaining, for instance. Well, you play Iono and they shuffle the hand, put it on the bottom of the deck, they draw a card. Except there's not really a card, it's 2 cards, because they're going to draw another card going back into their turn. At the start of their turn, they're going to draw a card, right? So then the question becomes, what do you do to try and stop them? And Absol's like, I got you, mate. Because the theory here, very simply, is you Iono your opponent, preferably down to 1 card in hand, and then you use this. Now, this is not a foolproof plan. There is something that can go wrong, and that is that the 1 card they get is a good card. If they top deck a good card off Iono, you lose. Nothing we can really do about that, I'm sorry. But assuming your opponent doesn't draw the perfect card off their 1 card Iono, you then use this attack on Absol, and you fix their top deck. And what you essentially do is look at the top 3 cards of the deck, and you know what the next 3 draws are. Except, essentially, you just keep this going. So, you look at the top 3 cards of the deck, and they've got nothing, Professor's Research. 2 cards that aren't going to help in Professor's Research. Well, what you do is you make sure they draw one of the cards they don't need, then the other card that they don't need, and then you use this attack again. So the turn they would draw into Professor's Research and therefore have an out, you use this attack again to look at the top 3 cards, which is going to be Professor's Research and 2 other cards, and hopefully there's more cards that won't help them. That's the theory with this first attack. Because let's be clear, right? If your opponent has got a 6-card hand, and you use this attack, and you make sure they top deck something rubbish, they've probably got something in the 6 cards in their hand which is going to help them. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is preferably after an Iono to 1, ideally, where you buy yourself a couple of turns. You buy yourself a couple of turns to set up whatever attacker you need, while guaranteeing they don't draw into anything. They still have got that 1 card from the Iono which could trip you up, I'm sorry, but outside of that, you should be looking pretty good. As for early game, I mean, look, you do not want to use this attack in the early game, let's be clear. This is not an early game attack. If you are using this attack in the early game, something has gone terribly, terribly wrong, alright? However, if it is early game and you've got absolutely nothing, yes, you can use this to try and draw into something. I'm not saying you should, I don't recommend it, but I am saying that this is an option. Also, as a side note, let's not forget that we do have Roxanne that can put your opponent down to a 2-card hand, and if your opponent's at a 2-card hand, well, yeah, that's fine, but like I say, it's not as good because now they've got 2 cards they can draw out of. One more fun little thing here, Sydney. Now, Sydney's awkward, but there is a cool combination with Sydney here. You look at your opponent's hand, discard up to 2 in any combination of Pokemon Tools, Special Energy, and Stadiums. Essentially, with Sydney, you look at their hand, and you know if they've got a bad hand or not, and then you can start using Absol. Look at their hand, get rid of Tools, Special Energy, or Stadiums, and then if after having done that, their hand is garbage, you can then actually start doing this thing and, you know, locking them out of the game, so to speak. This is an awkward attack. You want to use it after Iono to 1, hoping they've not drawn into anything, or you want to use it after something like a Sydney, where you know for a fact they don't have the right cards in hand. Then you start using this, and you can literally keep track of everything in their hand and everything on their board, and make sure that they never ever take a KO. Actually, while we're here, there is Snatch Charm coming in Pokemon card 151 that lets you look at your opponent's hand, find a Pokemon, and put them at the bottom of your opponent's deck. Again, like Sydney, the disruption from the card isn't great, but what it will do is basically allow you to look at your opponent's hand, try and make sure they've got, you know, nothing useful, maybe get rid of a Pokemon that could have been useful, and then start using Absol. The point I'm making here is, this is what you want to do when you know your opponent has nothing, or when they've got 1 random card and you highly suspect they have nothing. Don't sleep on this first attack from Absol EX, it could be great. But then we got the second attack, 2 darkness, 1 colorless energy, 100 damage. If your opponent has 3 or fewer cards in hand, this attack does 120 more damage. Once again, we're looking at Iono, although here Roxanne will work perfectly as well. But again, that's not really the point here. Like, your goal here is, you put your opponent down to a 1-card hand with Iono, then you use the first attack to make sure they're not going to draw anything for the next 2 turns. Then you get 2 turns of attacking with this unobstructed, and then you're good to go. After that, they're going to have 4 cards in hand. That's going to be a little bit awkward, although you could always use something like Sydney or Snatch Charm if you wished. But it's a decent attack. I mean, to be fair, 220 is a magic number for KOing Pokemon V. We've seen that Dark Patch got reprinted, so you can actually pay the attack cost here pretty easily, honest with you. And all you need is to try and make sure your opponent's got 3 or fewer cards in hand. But like I've just said, we've got supporter cards that will do it very nicely. Once again, early game, not a fan. Do not like this in the early game. Do not want to use this in the early game. You need your opponent to have 3 or fewer cards in hand. Realistically, that is going to mean playing Iono or Roxanne. There will be other times you can catch your opponent unawares. That's lovely. But the problem is here that you've either got to leave the energy on an Absol, hoping they end up with a low hand size, or you've got to hope you can hit kind of Dark Patch, etc. on the turn where they magically have a low hand size. It is far better to be able to plan this in advance and know, right, now my opponent's got a low hand size because I've played this supporter card, now I'm good to go. That is my preference here for Absol. And I actually really like it. It is a basic Pokemon that hits 220 and you can accelerate energy. Those are the 3 things I'm looking for. Basic Pokemon, really easy to tech into a deck. Having a way to accelerate energy, in this case Dark Patch, is huge, and hitting 220 is a magic number for KOing Pokemon V and, to be fair, basic EXs. Not to mention, of course, you're also hitting weakness on Gardevoir, which is phenomenal, and you're hitting weakness on Mew, which is great. I haven't even mentioned yet that you're hitting a fantastic weakness, and doubled with weakness, you're hitting 240. I assure you, Mew and Gardevoir will run quivering. Although, you can't really tech this into a non-darkness deck. Like, the fact that it's 2 darkness, 1 colorless energy means you have to play this in a darkness deck. So you're going to be hitting for weakness anyway, but it's still just a nice option in that regard. I legitimately like this card. I think the first attack in the early game, if you're drawing nothing, is really useful. I think the ability to lock your opponent after something like an Iono is really fun. And I do think the second attack, firstly, if you're locking your opponent, this is a good attack. Secondly, just as a decent late game, mid game attacker, as a basic Pokemon, I like it. I'm good at 4 Wassies. I think this is a really, really good EX, and this is the kind of thing I was talking about yesterday when I was telling you it might be a little bit early to start judging this set too much. I'm not saying this is a game-breaking card or anything stupid like that, but I am saying this is a really good card that should see a bunch of play, and actually, there's probably a lot more coming in the set as well. Right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this card. Tell me if you're as high on it as I am. Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at Lawasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like the lovely James Siapinski, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.